Star Wars Episode VIII, The Last Jedi. It's directed by Rian Johnson, stars Mark Hamill, for real this time, Carrie Fisher, rest in peace, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Adam Driver, Kelly Marie Tran and Laura Dern. This is the 8th main entry in the Star Wars films, and we follow on from The Force Awakens, obviously. So Rey's gone to find Luke Skywalker to convince him to join the Resistance, while they're continuing the fight without them, for now. This is definitely the most difficult review I've had to write yet, as reactions to this film, they've exploded all over the place. They're like everything from 1s to 10s, although that can probably be said of any big release. And it's, I guess, to be expected with the franchise. There's an equal amount of fans that will come over anything with the lightsaber in it, and quote-unquote fans who are just determined to hate everything that isn't the older films, because it's just such a tragedy that the guy who thought that a rabbit amphibian creature with a worse speech impediment than Scooby-Doo and a squeakier voice than Mickey Mouse on helium was a good idea isn't involved with the series anymore. I like to think that I don't belong to either group, as one only needs to look at the average comment section of a Star Wars video to see they're both pretty miserable bunches. I mean, of course I grew up on Star Wars, it would be weird if I didn't, but I feel like I can be critical of something that, well, frankly, never deserved to have this ludicrous amount of hype in the first place. With that in mind, I'm going to be saying some critical things about Star Wars. So if you belong to the former group, turn on as many of your lightsaber plastic tat as possible and let the hums drown me out. And if you belong to the latter group, get your slave Leia wank tissues out and have them at the ready. So the film's fantastically acted all around. Daisy Ridley's still brilliant as the latest wank tissue character. Rey, John Boyega's great too, and has some more scenes with Poe for all those shippers who have crawled out from the Sarlacc recently. So points for that. Adam Driver's still my personal favourite as Kylo, better than Darth Vader Ren. Mark Hamill more than makes up for his lack of fucking anything in The Force Awakens. Carrie Fisher as a final role that was certainly a damn good one to go out on. And whatever else you may think of the new characters, I feel their actors did a good job. They're all taken in some new and mostly interesting ways, mostly. And I think that Rian Johnson maintained, the feel of Star Wars, but it feels different somehow. It's a lot more different than The Force Awakens at any rate. Now, I really like The Force Awakens, but one thing that I think we can all agree was pointless arguing over, as whether the Porgs are a necessary element to the story and totally not there just to sell toys, is that The Force Awakens had about as many new ideas as there are hemispheres on the planet. Nevertheless, I gave it a pass that one time, as it was mainly billed as a revival of the Star Wars franchise, and did set up some new stuff also, feeling like Star Wars. Contextually, I didn't think it was the right time to do anything particularly daring with the series, because, the more zealous people would tell you there hasn't been a good Star Wars film since 1980. So yeah, I didn't think it was the right time to do anything particularly daring. So the heat was on this one to bring something new to the table. So the nagging fear I have for this film, would it just be a rehash of The Empire Strikes Back? The Resistance would escape a planet that no sane general would ever think of setting up shop on with they would never touch it with a 100-foot landing booster. Rey would train with Luke and then fuck off because of a vision she had. And no one would even consider the possibility it may have just been the Porgs driving her crazy. And they would try and no doubt fail spectacularly to one-up the good old I am your father. And it would all be stodgy muck that was like eating a plain piece of bread, perfectly edible, but begging for a nice bit of bacon with some lettuce and tomato, and this is where the analogy wears off a bit. Of course, you can certainly draw parallels to other films in the series, but, as I mentioned it before, it took the characters and the plot in new and interesting enough places that I didn't mind the callbacks so much. Even if they seem more glaringly obvious now looking back on them than Han Solo dying in the last one. So far, you might be thinking, "Oi, Liam, you charismatic ringtail bastard, this all seems pretty cut and dry to me. Why are you talking about this being really hard?" If you're a moron and know nothing about the sheer amount of Star Wars movies, books, video games, TV shows, comics, colouring in books, pyjamas, sex toys, and God knows what else, it's therefore inevitable that I'll call out some of the magnanimously shitty writing in this film, and someone will leap forth to defend it with as much desperation as they would if they were jumping in the way of a gun pointed at their lover. And they'll drone on and on about how in the book what Jabba does behind the curtains, Leia learned Force powers after being violated by Jabba, and this means it's perfectly logical that she can wake up in space and fly back to a ship like fucking Superman, with no explanation necessary or ever being brought up again. We're going beyond the outer rim into spoiler territory now, so if you haven't seen the film, it's a 7 out of 10. If you're not a big Star Wars fan, maybe check it out, and if you are, then you've already seen it, so sellotape your ears shut until the end of the video if you don't want it spoiled, or just turn the volume down, you dumbass. The big thing the Resistance have to deal with is that the First Order wrecked a lot of their shit before they blew up the not Death Star, so they're the last ones left and they're being followed across space by the First Order. They can't go to light speed because the First Order say they can't due to a new tracking MacGuffin, but they're just fast enough to stay ahead of a ship for about 2 days before they run out of fuel. Okay, so why don't the First Order just ring up another battleship and be like, "Oi, we got the last of the Resistance here, come and blow them up, please." Well, because a movie needs to happen is why. Finn and this new character Rose go to a casino planet to find a guy who can hack the First Order's tracking thing so they can escape, which turns out to be a completely pointless subplot that could have been completely avoided if a new general just told Poe what the actual plan was. Captain Phasma is now officially the Boba Fett of a sequel trilogy. Snoke dies with no explanation of anything, who he is, where he came from, why he's so powerful, nothing. Rose falls in love with Finn apparently after a few hours. And really, there's just a lot of instances of really sloppy writing. And that's really my only complaint with the film, is the writing was really bad sometimes, but you know, it's a big issue, really. There's a lot of, not exactly plot holes, but things where I thought they could have done it in a more interesting way. And yeah, should have just said that and saved myself a bit of work writing this. Anyway, The Last Jedi was entertaining. It looked great, sounded great. I love the characters. The actors did a damn good job. The writing is where it falls apart somewhat. I'm going to give Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, a 7 out of 10. So guys, have you seen The Last Jedi? You probably have, but anyway, what did you think of it? Or scream at me about how I'm wrong and how I just need to read issue 472 of The Adventures of Snoke's Playboy dressing gown to understand the story, because seriously, his outfit looks like something some rich arsehole will be slumping around his mansion in. And such is internet lore, I'll be listing my top 10 favourite films of the year pretty soon, so look forward to that, you evil shape-shifting clowns. Thanks for watching, have a good one.